Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's second video. We're going to do the USA forecast for today's second video. So as always on a Wednesday, we have a look at the weather for the next 10 to 14 days for the United States. I shall get on that for you in a second. Just say that first, the video is saying was our 7 AM upload. And we've got a 10 to 14 day for UK and for Northern Europe coming up for you later on this afternoon. Please like, share, subscribe on videos. And thank you so much everybody for doing that. Right, going to start off with the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for Chicago. So the red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Chicago. We're starting off a little bit above average there at the moment. We're going to see a drop in the temperature. It can become quite cold over the next few days. Nothing out of the ordinary, but it will become quite cold through the Midwest and into eastern areas over the next few days. Bit of a rise up in the temperature there as we go into the second half of the month. And then a big old drop in the temperature through the last week of January. So this could be the coldest phase of the winter so far, with quite severely cold air, no doubt plunging in from Canada there as we go into the final week of January. Because it's been a very funny winter in America. It's starting off really mild in December. It has been gradually getting a little bit colder through the Midwest and the east of the Northeast over the past week or so as we've gone into January. Looks like it's going to get progressively colder as January goes on. So the coldest weather could well be in the final week of the month, when it could get really severely cold. And look how far underneath the red line, which is pretty cold anyway. But I mean, for European standards, that's quite cold anyway. Between -5 and -10. At 850 HPA. But a lot of these ensemble members are going down to -20 or lower at 850 HPA. So that's severely cold air plunging in from Canada there through the final week of January. Bear in mind that's extended range, so there is uncertainty and unreliability with that, of course. A lot of dry weather as well over the next week or so, and then possibly getting a little bit more unsettled as we go into the final week of January. Obviously that's going to be snow if it's severely cold. So I expect there'll be like a trough of low pressure and a cold front that brings that drop in temperature if it occurs, with blizzards and whatnot. So yeah, winter could be really about to step up another couple of rungs on the ladder for the Midwest, and no doubt for eastern parts of America as well. Temperature anomalies shall be 12th to the 20th of January for the United States. Looking generally mild across most central and western areas, but already cold in these eastern parts of America. So this is a big flip around on what we had in December, when it was the west that was cold and the east that was warm. Now we see the warmest weather in the west and the coldest weather is in the east. And obviously that's like for the first week, that's like 12th to the 20th of January. So this period just here, when, I mean, it is cold, but it's not excessively so, and the even colder weather could be still to come. Precipitation anomalies from the 20th of January, looking dry on average in most central and western areas. A little bit more unsettled though through these eastern parts of America. And again, as it's quite cold, especially on this eastern side here, there could be some snow associated with those above average precipitation anomalies. Excuse me. So this is how the setup is across America today. We've got a ridge over in the west. That's keeping things mainly dry and mild. Of course, there will be frost on that ridge of high pressure, especially through the desert states like Arizona and Nevada. It'll be reasonably mild, I suppose, by day, but by night, cold and frosty. But the proper cold, snowy weather and whatnot is like up over Canada, and just sort of ding into the far northern part of America. Have a look at the 850 HPA temperatures. We can see that the coldest air is basically trapped in over Canada, but some of it has just drifted into the very, very far northern part of America. But clearly it's out west that we've got those warmest upper air temperatures. Right, so let's see what happens over the next few days then. So cold air begins to dig in from the north over the next few days. We pull in this cold northerly here through Midwest and into the east. So as we get to that period, which is around Friday, we can see that the upper air temperatures is clearly much colder now through the Midwest and into those eastern parts of America. The coldest area is still being restricted like to Canada, but much colder upper air temperatures are digging in to the Midwest and into the northeast America. And of course, that will be bringing the risk of quite significant snow with it. That northerly then sets up over the east coast. So actually, there's a bit of a northeaster here as we get into the weekend for the east coast, eastern seaboard. Massachusetts, those sort of states. We might well start to see the risk of blizzards and so on with this area of low pressure, a bit of a northeaster in this far northeastern corner. And still, again, many northern parts of America, Midwest into the northeast, looking pretty cold. Southern, western states looking quite a lot milder at that point. Right, so as we go on into the weekend and the open part of next week, a ridge of high pressure then starts to set up across the northern parts of America. At the same time, this trough of low pressure begins to develop in the south. That will bring heavy rain and probably snow to some of these southern parts of America or southeastern parts of America as we go into the weekend and through the early part of next week. When that low pressure pushes up the eastern side, that will bring further heavy rain and snow to those eastern and midwestern parts of America, probably primarily snow, I would have thought, as that low pressure pushes up from the south. So that's a significant area of snow there, moving up from the south for the early part of next week. After that, through to the middle part of next week, it looks like high pressure begins to develop to the southeast, and that will begin to pull up something a little bit milder to some of those eastern southeast states, but we have another area of low pressure then running through the Midwest there as we go to the second half next week and into the east. That will bring again another push of quite cold air from the north and a risk of some snow coming in with that. So quite wintry over the next week. Not severely cold, but definitely quite wintry. Bouts of snow and a cold wintry feel really for much of the Midwest and much of the east. Out west, again, this ridge of high pressure keeps things drier and quite a lot milder through there, although of course there will be the cold nights as we've explained, particularly in the desert states. Now we get through beyond day 10 or to day 10 and beyond it, and here comes that severely cold plunger there then moving in from the north. So the next week to 10 days is cold and wintry through Midwest and the east with plenty of snow on those areas of low pressure coming and going, but then we start to unleash absolutely brutal cold air from Canada as we go into the end of the third week into the final week of January with this northerly wind. If we have a look at the upper air temperatures, there you see it. That is like the plunge of extreme cold air from Canada pushing into the central and midwestern states and over to the east as well. Even pushing down towards the south, the minus 10 Celsius ice zone is moving in towards, South Carolina and Georgia, those sort of states, for example. So very, very cold, severely cold air plunging in from Canada as we go into the last week of January. There's low pressure associated with that, so not only extremely cold, dangerously cold, but also very, very snowy as well with this area of low pressure. That will bring blizzards and so on. Again, have a look at the upper air temperatures, and they're going to be extremely cold. Look at the extent of that cold air, but has swept southwards from Canada through these midwestern and east states. It's relatively typical, at least once a winter, states at least one time during the winter, the states generally gets one of these pushes of brutal cold air. Sometimes they can get several, attacks of this extremely cold air from the north. So it's not that unusual, but it's like the first one of the winter that looks extremely cold here for many of these east parts of America. It is extended range. It's at day 10 and beyond it, so it may not verify, but if it comes off, then definitely the coldest weather of the winter so far. After already quite a cold and wintry week, over the next week, but the coldest weather of winter so far is on the way. And this will turn out to be quite a cold January, which of course follows a mild December for many northern and eastern parts of America. That's how we finish up with this ridge beginning to build within the cold air, but still looking extremely cold through these midwestern and eastern parts of America. So this is a prolonged, severely cold spell that's setting up here through the last week to 10 days of January for northern and eastern parts of America. Often these cold plunges from Canada only lasted a couple of days and then they'll retreat away, but this one does look like it could be extended severely cold spell through Midwest and into eastern parts of America. So perhaps a bit of a worry for those people living there. Meanwhile, out west it continues to be relatively mild under a ridge of high pressure building in the Pacific Ocean. So as ever, California, the Sunshine State, doesn't look too bad, especially in those southern areas. This is how the ECM is looking, the Euro, all much of a muchness at the moment. Quite chilly for the Midwest and into the East. Not severely cold, but quite chilly and at times wintry. There's that area of low pressure running up the eastern side. In the early part of next week, that brings snow to many of those Midwestern and particularly Eastern states, a little bit of a northeaster there. So cold and wintry for the next week to 10 days. Not severely cold, but definitely a proper old wintry feel. That's how it looks as we get to day 10. So still pretty cold for these far northeast states. There's another low off the east coast that could bring to more snow up the eastern side. Ridge out in the west keeps things pretty mild through there. Upper air temperatures look like that. So yeah, it's cold through Midwest and into these eastern and northeastern states. Not severely so. The coldest air is still over Canada. Would be ECM, would be Euro, drop that severely cold air down into Midwest and the east part of America at or beyond day 10, as the GFS does. We'll know next week, I suppose. But definitely a cold and wintry feel anyway for northern and eastern parts of America in the next week to 10 days, with plenty of snow coming and going. It's just whether we unleash that extreme cold air into the last week of January. Right, CFSV2, finally, so then we're done. These are 500 millibar heights broken down to week periods. The first week period takes us from the 11th to the 17th of January. The coming week has a high pressure out to west. That's where the driest and mildest weather is, building in off the Pacific. Low pressure to the southeast, and obviously for these eastern Midwestern states, it's quite cold as there's a dip in the jet stream. So the coolest weather is in the east, in the northeast. That's very similar into week 2 as well, 18th to 24th of January. Again, we have this ridge in the west, trough of low pressure in the Midwest and into the east, and also into the southeast as well. We go through to week 3, which is going to be the 25th of January to the 31st, last day of the month. Again, the ridge is on the western side of America, keeping things mainly dry and relatively warm there. Trough low pressure in from Canada through the Midwest and into the east, with the jet stream plunging southwards. So that's where the coldest and most wintry weather is likely to be. Another real change into week 4. This is the first week of February, 1st to 7th of February. The ridge may be going a little bit more towards the northwest, up towards, back up towards Alaska, for example. But again, these eastern, northeast and midwestern states, that's where the coldest weather is likely to be, with the air plunging south. So after a mild start to this winter, and it was mild through Midwest, much of the east, in December, it looks like this could be turning out to be a very cold January and February, actually, that's setting up here. So temperature anomalies for week 1, which is the 11th to 17th of January, warmer than average in the west and the north and the northwest, cold than average in the east and through Midwest and into the northeastern states and in the southeastern states as well. Very similar for week 2, which is the 18th to 24th of January. Notice this extremely cold air over Canada is starting to move in towards those northern states. It's generally rather cold across many of the eastern and midwestern states. The warmest temperatures are out in those western states. And then week 3, the last week of January, turns extremely cold with CFS then. So in line with what GFS is showing, actually, east-west split with the western states generally mild, but these eastern states looking really cold, with bad air that's plunged in from Canada. Very, very severely cold indeed. And then we go through to week 4, which is the first week of February. Broadly, it's still the same. Mild average in the west, and much colder than average over in the east. So this is going to be a relatively cold and wintry next week, 10 days. And then watch out, because the last week of January really could unleash some extreme cold in most eastern and northeastern and midwestern parts of America. Precipitation-wise, dry in the west, and a ridge of high pressure, a little bit wetter towards the far southwest, interestingly, and mainly dry over those central and eastern states as well. Lots of dry weather into week 2 as well, 18th, 24th of January. Most parts of America actually looking pretty dry there. Week 3 is the 25th to 31st of January. Dry here in the east and southeast. Remember, this is when it's extremely cold. So the extreme cold air doesn't hold as much moisture. That's why it's dry. But anything that does fall is going to fall as snow. There will be significant and disruptive snow around, with those sort of extreme cold upper air temperatures, probably blizzards in places, especially as the cold air plunges in initially on no doubt a cold front and a trough of low pressure. And then week 4 is the 1st to the 7th of February. Again, looking pretty dry for many of these central, Midwest and eastern parts of America, perhaps a little bit more unsettled over towards the western side. So yeah, you know, it was a mild start to winter, definitely a slow burner winter this, but it looks like it's going up several gears now. So already pretty cold and often wintry for much of the Midwest and the east and the northeast over the next week to 10 days. But it's beyond that, you know, into the last week of January, that we might pull off some very extreme cold air that plunges in from Canada with blizzards and you know, dangerous cold setting in from Canada. As I say, it happens at least once a winter, generally, most years. But you know, this might, it does, but when it happens, it looks like it tends to only last a few days and then retreats away. It looks like it could be quite extended over a week or longer once it sets in. So yeah, just a case of watch your space, I think. Meanwhile, out west, after what was quite a cold start to the winter in December, that's where the cold weather tends to be towards the western side of America in December. Now it looks like it's the west that's turning quite a bit drier and warmer. So yeah, that's where the drier, warm weather is going to be. Right, we'll update you next Wednesday, of course, see what's going on in America then. But for this video, that's all for now. We'll be back shortly with a 10 to 14 day for the UK and the rest of Europe as well. So we come back for that then. But for this video, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.